Silence your cell phone, stifle that cough, because the sound you will then hear is no human sound at all. Complete and total natural silence. We're letting you hear it because some days it feels like there's nowhere you can go to escape noise. It's everywhere. But one group is trying to change all that. For our series Rebuilding America, Nancy Chen is looking at the growing movement to preserve our most quiet places. And she met up with a group that discovered that silence can be found in even surprising places.
For some of us, that may sound all too familiar. The boisterous noises from our daily hustle and bustle that have somehow evolved into the soundtrack of our lives. But what if it sounded like this? Here in Olympic National Park, one of the quietest places on Earth, the day moves to a different beat. Yet spaces like this continue to disappear, a troubling development sound recordist Matthew Mickelson hopes the world hears loudly.
It's fitting of all places to meet that we sit down in a library here at the New York Academy of Medicine. What is it about quiet places like this that are so sacred?
Quiet, I think, holds space for things that we can't verbalize as humans. We use silence as a way to honor things. So it can be emotional in that way, but it can also hold space for happy emotions too.
Why does quiet need to be saved?
Quiet's harder to find now than it ever has been. Noise is just everywhere, all the time. Even in our most remote wilderness areas, deep in the national parks, in the farthest reaches of our planet, noise pollution is present. Every year we see more and more data to reaffirm what we've known for a long time, which is that quiet is becoming extinct.
That's why Mickelson and nearly 100 other volunteers at the nonprofit Quiet Parks International are traveling to wilderness areas, trails, and parks around the world. Their hope to find and preserve places still free of noise pollution. But passing the requirements to be deemed a certified quiet place is as difficult as it sounds.
What I usually like to say is that sound is desirable, noise is undesirable or out of place. These wilderness areas need to have a dependable noise-free interval of 15 minutes or more. The majority of places in our country and Canada as well don't pass that just 15-minute requirement.
So you think without movements to try to save them, we would lose essentially all quiet?
Absolutely. Without the push to recognize quiet places, we're going to lose a natural resource that we, up until recently, weren't really even trying to protect.
Quiet Parks International estimates 90% of children won't experience natural quiet during their lifetimes. Mickelson and fellow volunteer Ethan Bordeaux are inspired to change that, even in unlikely places. We joined the two sound engineers at Breezy Point Beach in Queens, New York, as they searched for what they call an urban quiet park.
What have you gathered about this spot?
Fort Tilden in the Breezy Point area is without a doubt the quietest place in New York City.
What does quiet sound like in a place like this?
We're listening to the waves breaking, we can hear birds. Those sounds aren't quiet inherently, but they're beautiful and they ground you to place.
A dramatic difference from some of the busiest streets in the country, just a short drive away in Manhattan.
How loud is it right now?
Well, considering we were just in an environment that was as low as 40 decibels, we're actually 8 times as loud.
8 times louder, and what does that do to our brains?
Well,
8 times is crazy.
But through the silence in these sacred places, Mickelson hopes to prove to others quiet has the power to cure.
Your mission statement says, when we save quiet, we save everything else. What do you mean by that?
I think by giving people access to quiet, we're giving people access to a lot more, I hope. I know people find a lot more than just a good, enjoyable listening experience when they go to a quiet park. They find things that stay with them and that help them live more happy, fulfilled lives.
And the Quiet Parks International team is currently reviewing the data collected during our trip to Breezy Point with hopes of listing it as an official urban quiet park in the weeks ahead. It is remarkable how much silence can center you. And I think a big point of all this is to raise awareness of what we're missing.
But there is something about Matt Mickelson, too. There's something I'm totally smitten. He seems very soothing and very calming.
Yeah.
Am I reading him right? Seriously, I was very attracted to
centered
that.
after I talked to him. We had
Yes.
this really great conversation about silence.
But 90% of kids don't experience quiet.
That's
not
shocking.
good.
You need to be silent now. We'll be right back.